Very big hand clap. All right, now again, I'm going to say this before I hand the mic back to him. Let's take advantage of these tools. Every one of us, including myself, needs to put a plan together. Okay, and if you already have a plan, which I'm sure well, let's just put it this way, you can improve it, or at least having it checked. Larry and I were just talking about, because he loves doing this so much, creating a monthly meeting all about finances, okay? And he's gonna base it on Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace program. But with that plan, you will begin to come and tweak your plan. As you noticed, one of his presentations was, calculating your net worth regularly to see if you're moving ahead on a regular basis. We used to, in the 90s, going back 20 years ago, we used to play a game called cash flow.
Yeah, cash flow quadrant.
Cash flow quadrant, and we could bring that game back because it's a fun game, because it teaches you how to make decisions around assets, liabilities, and really beginning to move. What you don't realize, and Larry said it, but he bumped over it a little bit, the amount of money you make does not determine your wealth.
No, that's what you keep.
What's your question? No, it's not even what you take in, it's how you manage your money. Yeah. It's because even janitors have become millionaires just being smart. And it all goes back to, spending money you don't have to impress people you don't like. And so at the end of the day here, that's the beauty of having a church, especially having a church that's moving in the same direction. Some of us follow instructions like Janan years ago when we said, let's get out of debt. She took it very seriously. The Williamses took it very seriously. Now they have a lot of student loan debt throughout their family, right? And so what the idea is, they're not out yet, but they're making decisions towards it, right? Years ago when I retired from trading, I made a very smart decision, and I said to my wife, from now on, we're on debit cards, no more credit cards, right? And that was hard for her at first because she could only spend whatever we have, which is not even a good plan, because then you still might not be saving, right? But at least I didn't have spending money we're going to have to pay for the rest of our lives, right? So managing debt, this is why Kenneth Copeland teaches on it so much. He's constantly saying, don't be in it, because debt puts you in slavery. Puts you in bondage. It puts shackles on you, and then you can't be the believer you want to be. You can't be the giver you want to be. You won't be able to be where you need to be, because you'll be paying debt. I mean, you can't even afford an Uber to get someplace because you got to pay debt. All right? Who had that question? Cassandra, go ahead.
We had a lot of net worth, highly affluent clients from BNP Paribas, Barclays, Morgan Stanley. And what you didn't know was a lot of our clients who had, more net worth and lower debt to income ratios were our clients who worked for the big bus companies, and they were out selling tickets on the corner. They actually spend a lot less, or they spend within their means. And actually those who are in Barclays and BNP, all those clients would come in with very high debt to income ratios, overspending, homes that are even beyond their incomes that are 3-4 times what the big bus employees were making. So it was actually the bank accounts you'd never imagine, a couple $100,000 sometimes for the employees who are making, 1/4 or 1/10 of what some of those, high income employees were making.
And the thing we have to watch with the people you're describing then is they can, once they get that 200,000 or something, they get in one bad conversation, then they get talked into a bad investment. Yeah. So even once you start saving, you want to stay on this plan because you don't want to end up in a non-diversified position where you put all your eggs in one basket and you get advice from somebody who has no interest in your future, but only has interest in their fees and what's in it for them. And it's one of the reasons why I've been so reticent to talk about money here, is because I don't want anybody thinking that I'm doing it for my own personal gain, right? Same thing with Larry. Larry and I just asked Larry, I said, are you still working with Primerica? He said, no. And the reason he was happy about that is because if he was with Primerica, he'd have to be up here with 62 disclaimers and 55 different things, so he would be legally protected, so it didn't look like he was self-serving.
And that was the part where I was saying that you got to look at the relationships and affiliations, because people get you to do stuff because of what they're motivated to do.
Is this valuable? Yes. Go ahead, Larry.
Okay. Yeah, two things that you were asking about the money. One of the things that I've learned is not what you make, it's what you keep of what you make that makes the difference, right? And then the spending money that you don't have to buy things that you don't want to impress people. The Texans say it like this: big hat, no cattle. See, you got to be very careful when people have flashy lives and you kind of pursue that flashy life, but behind the scenes they have nothing behind that. They're one paycheck away from bankruptcies. And you see, like she was saying, people who have high net worths and they're way beyond their means, but their life looks beautiful, and we strive to that. And that's why you got to stick with the word, and the word will get you where you need to go. So that we started out talking, just as a recap, we talked a little bit about the Lord, about what he says about money. And the thing to get out of that is we are managers, we're not owners. He owns everything, we manage it. Take the emotion out of it. Do the things that the Bible tells you to do. Don't be so quick to hold on, but be free to give. And don't be the source, but be the resource. Don't mean, you know what I mean? It doesn't just come to you, but it comes through to you and flows through you. And then we talked about planning. A lot of times we don't want to take that step because we're afraid of what we might see. But I think Pastor Dan said, it might have been yesterday, when you're having problems and you're drunk, you think nobody knows it. People smell the alcohol. You know? And I heard one person say, it's like, what you do wrong, everybody else sees it. You might as well be in on it. See, you think that just because it's like, and it's funny with little kids. Have you ever seen them when they hide? They cover their eyes, and you see them, but they think because they cover their eyes, nobody sees me. And that's what we do with our finances. We go ahead and cover our eyes, and we think just because we cover our eyes, everything is going to be great. And it doesn't work that way. So that's where we got into the planning. And yeah, we don't want to be little kids. So we get into the planning, kind of locate where you're at. So now that we kind of have an idea, we've located where we're at, we see is our plan working. How? Well, because our net worth is moving in the direction we want it to go in. The next most important thing that you can grasp is cash flow planning. Now, this is actually taking the money coming into your home, and what steps do you take to make sure you're making the right steps. And one of the things Dave said, which I thought was good, if you aim at nothing, you will hit it every time. So if you have no clue where you want to go, you're going to hit that you're going to have nothing, right? Because you're aiming at nothing. And John Maxwell, like he said, a budget is where you tell your money what to do instead of wondering where it went. How many times you get at the end of the month like, where's all my money? How? And then, you live paycheck to paycheck. I even know some people at jobs I've been in the past, they get paid 2 days later, they're borrowing money from other people because they don't have enough. Because this is not taking care of the cash flow coming in. It says in a day and age that we don't feel money, therefore changes in our income don't impact us like we had to take money out of our pocket and actually pay something. And that's the downside. I love the electronic stuff. I can't tell you, like I haven't touched cash in like forever now. I just don't touch cash. Everything is electronic. But one of the things you have to be very careful of is in this digital age where you don't touch money, you don't feel money going out of your pocket. So one of the things he suggests is having things like maybe food, gas, and a few items that you go ahead and you put in an envelope. Take the cash out, put it in an envelope, and there are some other things if you're interested. There's a nice video on YouTube. I don't have time to play it, but they talk about the whole thing, envelope budgeting. So when gas prices go up and you're going to pull more dollars out of your envelope, you realize gas prices are going up. You don't just fill it up. Same thing with groceries. You take your envelope and then you walk around, and if all you had to spend is that envelope, You're not going to be, oh, let me put this in, and if it goes over, whatever, and you swipe it. You're going to be like, I don't got that money. Could you put that back? Could you put that back? And then all of a sudden you start putting disciplines in place because you're feeling the money. So that's one of the things he talks about. It says, in order to feel the effects of money, you can convert some of the amount of cash into physical currency, and like I said, put in a into envelope system. But when you start all this stuff, it can kind of feel like herding cats. Have you ever heard of cats? Could you do me a favor? Could you show them a video of what it is to herd cats? I just wanted to get you an idea. So we're going to see the cat herders, and I'll be back. All right?
This man right here is my great-grandfather. He's the first cat herder in our family.
Herding cats. Don't let anybody tell you it's easy.
Anybody can herd cattle. Holding together 10,000 half-wild short hairs, well, that's another thing altogether.
Being a cat herder is probably about the toughest thing I think I've ever done.
I got this one this morning, right here, and if you look at his face, it's just ripped to shreds, you know?
You see the movies, you hear the stories, I'm living a dream. Not everyone can do what we do.
I wouldn't do nothing else.
It ain't an easy job, but when you bring a herd into town and you ain't lost a one of them, ain't a feeling like it in the world.
How many people feel like that's your financial situation when you sit down to the table? It's like herding cats. I just thought that was so funny. But see, this is where you want to go ahead and bring your finances in line so it's not a crazy thing. And how do you do that? You actually do that through budgeting. See, I said a little humor. I just thought, because I could tell you it's like herding cats, but to see herding cats is a whole different story, right? Okay. So before you can begin to destroy debt, you have to understand the basics of cash flow. Since cash flow problems are what gets you into debt in the first place. This is how you go into debt. So if you can manage your cash flow, then you could be in a place where you're not going into debt. It says the first step to happiness is spending less than you earn, and spending less than you earn is the key to personal finances. So if you go to the next slide. Okay, cash flow. Okay, let me see. I'm going to tell you 1 second. Cash flow. It should be using credit cards, taking out loans and all that. Yeah, okay, we're there. It says when you spend more than you earn, there's never enough money to go around, and you're always $50 to $100 short of what you need, and you fall further and further behind by the month. And just some examples to kind of give you an indication that you're getting into this. As a result, you end up spending money that you don't have. You start using credit cards, especially to buy necessities like groceries and things like that. And then it says you take out loans, which leads to more debt and which puts you deeper in a hole. So these are just some warning signs that things may not be going quite in the direction that you want. And again, like I said, you can't ignore them. It says if you spend more money than you earn, you have a negative cash flow. You're in danger of losing wealth and going into debt. And if you're already in debt, you're just digging yourself deeper and deeper in the hole. And it's a sad thing when you wake up. 'Cause a lot of times things are happening, and because you're not paying attention to this, this is where we have financial crisis. This is where all of a sudden things hit us, and we're so devastated, we're so behind. It's almost like there's no way I can get out of this. And you just put so much more pressure on yourself than when you're following, you're tracking, and you see things going on, and you can make course corrections. You can see, okay, I'm off. And what's very interesting, analogy is, and I'm already at 12 o'clock.
I want you to go 15 more minutes.
Okay.
And then I'm going to give you some of my time this afternoon.
Okay, to finish it,
How
okay.
do you feel about that, guys? Don't you think it's important enough?
Okay, great.
I think he's doing amazing. So he's going to go 15 more minutes.
Okay.
And it's going to leave him about 45 minutes this afternoon. And I'm going to give it to him up front.
Okay.
Now, the reason I'm saying this now, Larry, is because I need to go and get ready for my piece.
Okay.
But I'm gonna do vision casting and dream boarding, and I'm gonna do it according to Vanessa and the 5 questions. So it's gonna be a lot different, but I'm gonna use that whiteboard up there, and I'm gonna show you on my life how you can do it yourself. Okay, so there'll be a lot of goal setting, there'll be a lot of stuff like that. Let's give Larry a big hand up.
Thank you. And that is very important, because as you're doing all this, you really got to know what goals you have. And then all I'm talking about is on the financial side, what you put in place to make sure you're on track to reach those goals. So it's hand in glove. It's part and parcel. Okay.
You get in front of the 2 o'clock.
Okay, got it. Okay, good. So then I'll have to go through a lot. All right, so again, one of the analogies that I saw is just like when a plane takes off. One of the things that happens is when it's going from New York to California, most of the time the plane is off course. It doesn't follow the flight plan. But because they have instruments to show them where they're going, there's always course correction. So when they fly off course, they don't get too far because they have instruments to say, you're off course. They correct the course. So they end up in the place that they want to be in. But if you can imagine if you're being blown with headwinds and all this other kind of stuff, you're being blown off course, and you don't even have instruments to tell you you're off course. You could be miles off course. And one of my pastors used to say that error increases with distance. So you can start, if you're plowing a field, you can start 1 inch off here, and if you keep on going that line, by the time you end up at the end, you could be miles off. So you want to have things in place, these tools, to help you do course correction, to make sure once you know what your goal is, that you're staying on focus and on point. And see, these are some of the things that are your instruments to let you know. It says if you spend less money than you earn, then you have a positive cash flow, which will let you climb out of that debt and start to build wealth. If you can go to the next slide, please. And this is what cash flow planner or budget can do. It can show you where you're spending money or you spent money, so it kind of gives you the past. What did you do in the past? It can also show you what you currently have. It can show you what available money you have right now. And it can also show you where you want to spend your money. So a cash flow or spending plan kind of says, what did I do? And the things I did, are they working? And if not, what course corrections can I make? And this is why you do a monthly plan. You do a monthly budget. Then it could tell you where you're at, what's available, so you're not caught off guard. And then it could say, hey, this is where I want to go. And it could tell you, am I on track to get where I want to go? Because you never want to get to, because life, you don't have a reset button. You don't want to get to retirement and say, oops, I made a mistake, hit the reset button, go back and do it all over again. We don't get that luxury. So you want to make sure you're doing the right things up front. So it says that your budget helps you look at the past, present, and future so that you can evaluate your spending decisions in relationship to your past choices and your future plans. Budgeting basics. Money is active, and that's why they call it cash flow, because your money's always moving. So if you don't have a budget to take a snapshot, a picture where you're at, that's why it's like herding cats, because things just keep on coming, and when things just keep on coming, you almost get overwhelmed, because when this happens, that happens, then this is going to happen, and nobody says, time out, oh, Larry looks a little overwhelmed, let's stop everything. No, it just keeps on coming, and when you put your head in the ground, that's where you start having major financial crisis. You must have a written plan for every month. Like I said, it's not one thing you do and you're done. Every single month, you want to make sure you're on track, and it takes 30 to 60 days to 90 days to really get this down. But once you get it down, and expect some hiccups, but once you get it down, it begins to flow. Money flows from those who don't manage it to those who do. And when you look at debt, the borrower is subject to the lender. When you don't have money, and you're going to see a clip about the renter center and how nice and friendly it is up front, but then how there have been some devastating things that have happened to people, and money has flown out of their pocket right into renter center. So those what budget helps you. It takes time to get good at it. I told you about 90 days. And in Luke 14:38, it says, what person getting ready to build a barn doesn't sit down and first calculate the cost to see if they have enough to complete it, lest they are unable to complete it and people laugh them to scorn. So you want to make sure you, and Celia said, know the state of your flocks. This is how you do that. And then you have to balance your checkbook. Some people think that balancing their checkbook is looking at their account. Yep, got some money, and it's balanced, but that's not balancing your account. You got to go ahead and look at what's spending, what's coming in, going out, make sure that is, and it's not so much that the bank is not making a mistake, it's more to make sure you're not making mistakes. And overdraft, that's a sign of crisis, living sloppy, lazy money habits. Banks make so much money off of people's fees. Matter of fact, Rent-A-Center and those types of places, they actually bank on you not doing the right thing. They bank on you being lazy and sloppy and not looking at what you need to do. And then at the end, boom, you get hit with a surprise. That's that 90 days same as cash, you know, no interest. One of the things you don't know about no interest, we bought some furniture for the house and we had all this money there on that. And one of the things that happened is they gave me payments and I was paying them off, everything was great. But then I looked at my last payment when I really started getting serious about this stuff, and I just came up just a bit short. My last payment was going to be just a payment short. And guess what happens if you don't fully pay that off by the last payment? All the interest that was accruing, boom, they slap it right on. And so we would have went from, I think it was down to $1,500, and if I paid the next one, I would have had about $1,500 left. Hey, yes, all this furniture paid off, and now they hit $4,000 would have been thrown on there right away. So I would have $4,500 back there because all the accrued interest is now put back on there. So you got to really find out what's going on. These people spend a lot of money and have a lot of smart people figuring this stuff out. Most people think they're going to beat the system. Well, you just got to understand what the principles are and follow those principles, and you don't get caught up in this stuff. Okay? And the reason that we don't do a cash flow plan, well, what reasons are there? It has a bread and water connotation. We just think that, oh my God, I can't do this, I can't do that. And we look at it as something that's going to constrain us. But when you look at it correctly, it's going to liberate you and free you to make sure that you're doing the things that you want to do, that your money is going into places that line up with your goals and values. But when you don't have a plan, willy-nilly you spend, but then you find out that you're in trouble in the end. And then it has been abused. I talked about that, where when I was Mr. Nerd doing the budget, I was kind of beating my wife up. When I didn't want her to buy something, hey, it's not in the budget, you know, and you can't do that because that's why budgets are really bad. And she's a look at here, and we always say, where? But now, since I give her money, we don't have those conversations anymore most times. Okay, they never had a budget that really worked, and it's maybe just because you didn't have principles. Nobody taught you how to do a budget, and you did one, and it was just, this is too much, and then you just threw it away. Also, paralysis or fear that you'll find out exactly where you're at. Some people don't do a budget because they kind of have a sneaky feeling that, I'm probably not where I need to be, so I'm not going to do anything. It's just like the ostrich, stick your head in the ground. As long as I don't see it, little kid, everything is fine, but it's not. And if we go to the next slide. Cash flow plans do not work. Why don't they work? Well, they don't work if you leave things out. Because see, if you have expenses that are coming up and you don't take that into consideration, we'll talk a little bit about that when we start back up. It's like you get hit blindsided, and they say in the expression, the boxer is not the punch you see coming that knocks you out, it's the one you don't see coming that knocks you for a loop. And a lot of times financially, when we don't plan for these unexpected things, we get thrown for a loop. Overcomplicated plans. It's best to start out really simple. Mine, you look at it, you're like, ooh, your eyes will glaze over. But starting out, you want to make it really simple. You don't want it to be a burden. You want to just get the process down. Once you get the process down, when you start seeing that you need more things to be incorporated, or you want to keep track of something, let's say you find yourself spending a lot of money on coffee and eating out. Well, you may want to track that category to see really where your money's going, and then what are some things you can do to correct it and stay on course. Also, they don't actually do one. That's what it's supposed to be. You don't actually do the plan, and that you don't actually live on the plan. So you can get a plan, beautiful plan, looks good, all the charts, nice graphs, but then you don't follow the plan. There's no sense. You just don't do it. So those are some reasons why it doesn't work. It says a written plan removes the management by crisis from your finances, and management by crisis takes a lot of stress. It takes a lot of energy to always be running around trying to fix things that are broken, and it always seems like just when one thing happens, you get out of that, something else has happened. Have you ever seen someone's life? They're always in a crisis, and this is a result of some of the things financially, just not having a budget. And it says in 1 Timothy 5:8, but anyone that does not provide for his own and especially those of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. And this is why it's so important for us to manage our money. Managing our money feels like we get a raise. One of the things that happened with Paige, when I first sat down with her, she had to get some babysitting services, and they didn't have a budget, and it was just like, we can't afford it, just is not there. So I said, Paige, come on, let's sit down. And we actually sat down and we did a budget, and we actually found that there was about $1,200 that wasn't being accounted for. So I said, all you got to do now is go back, find out what's going on with that, with the budget, and start moving your money around and adjust it for the priorities, and you're going to find out that you have a lot more money than you think. And a lot of times in our head, things are usually better than it really is, or we make it worse than it really is. But when you look at, I don't got the money, or when you think you got money, hey, I got enough money, and then you just do things willy-nilly. But when you have a plan in place, then you start finding out it's almost like a raise. All of a sudden it's like, oh my God, I got more money. And then it goes to where you want it to go. So there's always wasted money and wasted energy in disorganization. And a written plan is actually lived on and agreed to. When it's lived on and agreed to, it says we remove many of the money fights from our marriages. It really calms things down. You have better relationship, better communication. Remove much of the guilt, shame, and fear that we may have. May be a part of buying necessities such as clothes and things like that. That's what I say. I give her money, I got my money. Whatever we do with that, I don't say anything. It's just when you get past that, then we got to sit down and look at our budget and adjust and renegotiate. It says, Val gets the money, and we don't have that many fights. And the micromanager. It also shows if you're overspending in a certain area, and we'll see that when we do the budget. There are certain, and yours might vary, but there are certain general percentages of your income that certain categories should take up. So if you're overspending in one category, it's a quick indication of where your budget's off, where you're spending more money. So if your housing is too expensive, well, either you can make more money, or you know that you might be living someplace that you can't afford. Or if your groceries or food is way out of control, maybe you're eating out a little bit too much, and you need to take some of that money, buy some groceries, and take lunch to work. So it just helps you, like that indicator, to see where things are going awry, and then you can go ahead and you can make adjustments. And especially if you're doing it on a monthly basis, you don't have to go too far. You can make corrections right away. And now what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to stop here because we're almost at 1/4 But what we're going to do is we're going to just look at some simple budget frameworks. And these are just some calculations that people made, some beginning points that say how you should break up your finances. And then I'm going to show you the zero-based budget based on Dave Ramsey. And this is where we're really going to get into it. I have an example budget. We're going to step through it. And even if you're on irregular income, meaning that you might be a salesperson, you might be on commission, well, you need a budget more than anybody else because your money is not consistent. And there are ways to be able to manage your money if you're on some type of spending where money is irregular, or income where money is irregular. So I want to lay all that out, and when we come back from the break, that's where we're going to pick up. We're going to start with those basic foundations and then go from there. Any quick questions before we finish? Something that you might have a question about? Erica?
What's the best, oh, that was loud. What's the best way to budget for the week? Because I find that for me, I notice that I'm spending here and there, and I'm thinking, well, I'm not spending that much, but it adds up at the end of the week. And usually for me, it's the lunch, at work. You don't really realize, $15 at lunch, and then you want coffee, like you said, that's about $20 a day. And you're spending over $100 a week on food that you probably didn't need, especially if you have groceries. So I'm wondering, what's the best way to budget for the week to help avoid those type of situations?
Well, the first thing I'll say is having a budget, because then you can look at your month and you can break it up by weeks, how much you need to spend. Number two, we have something in My Deeper Life talk called the Sunday night meeting, which allows you to look at the week and see what your week is going to be like and what obligations financially you're going to put aside. Once you put that in place, then you are able to now stick to that for the week. The other thing is when you do groceries, one of the things that when I started working at the airport, and food is very expensive at the airport. I was coming out, I was making barely nothing, and I paid for my first lunch. I said, I can't do this. and I've been with Delta for about 11 years, and I have not bought lunch at work ever since that first time. I just go ahead and prepare. And then what my lunches are, sometimes it might be I cook for meals for the week, and then I take some of that for lunch, or I have a sandwich. It's just planning. It's just say what I'm going to do. And the coffee and stuff I like green tea. I buy the 40 thing of green tea, I bring it to work. And when I want a cup of tea, I put some water in, I'm good. I don't spend any money. You could do the same thing, get your Keurig cups and then put it in if you have that. Or you can do something where you can bring it to work and you can if you're able to, buy your own coffee percolator, bring it to work, make your own coffee. So you don't have to spend money on coffee, because that's like, it used to be 25 cents for a cup of coffee. Now, if you go to Starbucks, man, you can spend up to $14 almost dollars on a cup of coffee. So you want to just control those things. Yes, we have one other question, and then we'll kind of wrap up.
My question is about credit cards. Like, I heard that, of course you pay off your credit card, and I was doing that, and then it's like, okay, well, I heard another theory too, that not to use your debit card. So I started using the credit card again, but I pay it off every month. But is even that not good, or what would you recommend?
Well, I have my own personal philosophy, and my personal philosophy is cut that credit card. I haven't used a credit card over 2 years. See, when you have a debit card, it has a Visa logo on it, and even if you purchase with the debit card online, Visa has to give you the exact same privileges as if you use a credit card. So you can call up and you can dispute that. You can use PayPal. There's nothing that I can't do with a debit card. The challenge with having a credit card is if something happens and you can't pay it off, you've just put yourself in a position where now you have a running debt. And see, there's risk there. And see, this is what people don't take into consideration, the risk. Yeah, you can pay it off. Some people say, hey, I get frequent flyer miles and all this. One of the things Dave Ramsey said is he's talked to millionaires all over the place. He said none of them said, with those extra mileage, man, my whole life changed. I'm a millionaire now because I got extra bonus miles. They say 75% of the people don't even use the miles and all those things that you get on. All that is just to pull you in. And the other thing about using a credit card is you spend about, and we'll talk about McDonald's found that out. Why do you think McDonald's takes credit cards? Because people spend 20 or 40% more on a credit card than they do when they do it. See, at least a debit card, and you got to be careful because that can be abused. But when you swipe that debit card, bing, it comes right out your account. Credit card, hey, you don't feel it, and you keep on spending more money. So you tend to spend more money when you use a credit card. Yes, you can respond. Yeah, if you know something.
I work for Citibank, so. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
So actually, all this, I love this. My heart races this whole time. But anyways, I know one thing, like if you're having trouble with the credit cards, I work in a bank, so there's a lot of debit card fraud, and it's easier for the bank to dispute a credit product. So I see there are reasons otherwise that you might want to use a credit card. One thing I personally do, or I've done since I was 18 and I got my first credit card, is I actually don't wait till the billing cycle date. So I always use credit cards because you get cash back, you get bonuses, you can do city price rewind. There's so many things you can earn and get back, which is another way to save money. You don't even know you have that feature on your cards, is to pay your bill every maybe 4 or 5 days. I have a habit of logging into the app and just constantly paying it every time there's a balance. So that's one way maybe to just have it come out of your bank account, so you're not like, oh my goodness, 30 days later I owe $700 and I didn't know I owed $700 because I thought it was 100 and 5 and 10. That's one way to do it. And then also is you can actually find out from your credit card companies if there's ways you can make money off of using it. So let's say you bought a TV for $500, and that in the flyer, Black Friday weekend, it's gonna go to $400. Citi has this is not a sales pitch, this is just something that most people don't know, and just Google Citi Price Rewind. A lot of companies offer these kind of features. So the concept behind a credit card company is, yes, we are intending for you to default or to pay late or to pay interest. But the good thing about having those cards is your debit card doesn't always give you a feature such as that price drops, Citi will match it up to $500 per item, up to $2,500 per year. So that's one thing that you can actually take advantage of, and that's extra money in your pocket because you did your research. It doesn't matter what retailer you buy it at. If you get the purchase at Target, let's say, and Best Buy drops the price within 60 days, Citi pays you the difference right to your card. So that's another way, maybe taking advantage of what you already are going to buy and actually making sure you get paid back for that. But I will state a statistic. In our 2016 annual report for Citi, we had over 420 billion in annual sales on credit cards and over 140 billion in accounts receivables. Meaning, although we give that reward, my area director is like, "Are you sure?" Mind you, he's like 3 levels above me. He goes, "You think we really make money off of that?" I said, "Of course, because the average consumer isn't like you and I. The average consumer doesn't go in and pay their bill and they think at the end of the month, let me just pay it off now. And oh, wait, I overspent. I thought I only spent 100. I thought I only spent, and I forgot about this purchase." So now you're a slave to the bank. You're paying 25.99% interest. What you purchased for $100 in 1 year is now $125.
And when you miss your payment, they go.
Yeah, and then they hike it to 29.99% based on a one-time missed payment is a lifetime, higher rate. So there are so many things with those credit cards that they make you your slave, but if you can always pay in advance, or you're using it like a debit card and you pay it back a few days later, that might help to your advantage as well. So.
And those are all great things, but this is why the default is you don't use it, because how many people read that statement and get in detail and know all this? I used to read that stuff, my eyes glazed over. There's just all these paragraphs in there. But if you know, that's great. But most people don't know. And they get themselves in trouble when they try to play around with something. Like I say, if you play with a snake, you're probably most likely going to get bitten. So if you don't know, then be careful playing with it. But anyway, the last one, and then this was supposed to be.
Most of us are not that disciplined. Yeah. I know for myself. That's why I haven't used credit card for more than 10 years. Yep. More than 10 years I haven't used credit card because we're not that disciplined. Yep. I will buy the thing, then later on, oh, look at that, I have this debt. So I'd rather use my debit card. When my money, I always said that. When my money finish, I'm finished.
and so that's a built-in way of discipline. So you got to kind of see where you're at. But for most of us, we don't have the discipline. We don't have the financial acumen to break down. And here's the thing. Banks and all these financial institutions, they got a lot of smart people who spend a lot of time figuring this stuff out, and they look at your habits, they look at what you do, what you don't do, and they know where to incent you, and they know you're not going to be lazy, you're not going to pay attention, and a lot of banks and financial institutions makes their money off of fees and things just because we are lazy and we don't do the things we need to do. So we want to make sure, this is where I said, money flows away from people who mismanage it, and it flows to people who manage it. And we want to be on the side where we're managing it well, okay? So I think that we have our break now, and we'll be back at 2 o'clock. Thank you very much for your time.